gonna be ready.
And then,
Because we can't advertise this on.
oh, that's right, you take your sips.
We had 10
Sips?
minutes on that first one, and then a 20, so we only have about 2 more questions, about 10 more minutes.
Okay.
And then we're gonna be
I'm
done.
good.
So
Wow.
I've got like 2 questions left.
This is for you for later, if you want.
Okay.
Okay. And pull your jacket a little bit,
Oh,
so you're, pull that up a little bit, there we go.
We're good?
Yeah, you want to pull the bottom of his jacket, sit on the tail of your jacket.
Oh, yeah, sit in the tail.
There we go.
Great.
Let's go.
If you could hold on to just one memory from your time of teaching at Concordia, what would that be?
I don't think that's possible to answer. There's too many. I don't know. One thing. I think there's just the opportunity of being able to stay at the same school for 50 years, and that I didn't get fired for doing bad things or not teaching well. There's one thing, it's just so many things happen with certain students and other professors. Maybe the thing just a real close one, because when I first came to Concordia, I didn't know how I was pretty nervous, and I was single, and so I'm gonna, this little story maybe, because it got me settled here at the school. The people here I didn't have a place to stay, and so one of the professors suggested that I stay with another professor who was on the campus, living just on one block, just across the street from the dorms that are now on that street, 29th or 28th, whatever. And it was a guy named Hans Spalteholz. And Hans Spalteholz was a single professor here who lived in the basement of a house right across the street from the school. And the name of the owner was a Mrs. Gaylord. Her husband had just died, unfortunately, in his 40s. And she owned this house, and she had 2 rooms in the basement that could be rented. And so I just stumbled over there and met this Hans Spalteholz and Mrs. Gaylord, and it was one of the greatest environments, and 2 years until I got married and I could move out on my own a little more. Hans Spalteholz was just an unbelievable classmate, roommate, and he taught me a lot. We talk about being Lutheran or being Christian. I learned a lot, I think, more from him in those 2 years, certainly. And he was such a good teacher and bright person. I even went, I remember, to visit his parents in New York. But he was a special person. So I think that's the time I would say as an individual, the most important for me being a teacher here was those 2 years living with him. And my wife, by the way, we had broken up. She had gone to Valparaiso to become a deaconess after her here, and I stopped after the Army and visited her. And I said, I was about ready to ask her, I wanted to give her a ring. And she said, Dwaine, I'm going to Germany next year for a year to be a nurse at a German mental hospital. So I drove home. I had driven my car to Oklahoma in the military, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I drove home. I remember I don't think I stopped more than a couple of times to sleep, and I was very upset. And so then I went onto the campus at Concordia and began my teaching. Well, what happened is she stopped by and knocked on the door later on, and
When she got back?
When she got back, and she was heading down to her new job as the first nurse of Concordia, Oakland. And so she stops by and says, well, hi, I opened the door. I'll never forget, I opened the door. Rachel. And so I was a little nervous about that. But we said blah, 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 and she took off. And then I was the basketball coach in the 60s, unfortunately. And I took teams to Oakland Concordia. And guess what? Rachel Creefall became Rachel Creefall Brandt by the time that series was over.
That is a great story. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
Gosh. Okay, one more question.
okay.
Let's imagine that this goes into the archives and your great-great-great-grandchildren get to hear you, or your students, great-great-grandchildren of your students. What would you like to say to them?
Boy, that's...
I know. You've already told them a great
I would
story
say
about Rachel.
probably to everyone, to utilize, if you can be serious about an education at the college level, but in that sense, try to look at as a preparation to somehow be a plus to society in whatever area you are studying in, that you think about society as much as yourself, or that every job you're going to get just as how much do you make. Enjoy your job, help people with that education. Don't let it be a self-centered experience.
I think that typifies you. That it is not a self-centered experience. That there is passion in what you do.
Yeah, and that
your
you
love
love,
of,
do what you like to do in life, and not just because you make more money at one job than another.
yeah.
Of course, I'm taking my personal experience from that.
But you gifted your students with this great love of Luther and the Reformation, but especially Luther the person. Do you think Luther is going to survive? You know what I mean? The sense of the power of what he gifted to society. Do you think that's going to go on into the next 21st century?
That's hard to say. I'm not sure.
What was the greatest gift he gave to you, Luther?
Well, his whole life as a gift to others. He was constantly, even to the politicians, he met with politicians, he met with economists, he met with married people having problems. He was concerned, I think concerned about society. I think people shouldn't only think of Luther as vertical, but as horizontal. And I think any church should be that way. Why do you go to church? Because you don't have to worry. God already has saved you in Jesus Christ. That's why I like Luther. And then you're free to serve other people.
I love it.
Because you don't have to worry about yourself. My problem, as like Luther's, was with people who were worrying about, one of his problems with the Roman Catholic Church is that they had to do so many other things and do these beads and take a pilgrimage. By the way, I took a Catholic pilgrimage.
Yes, you did.
7 years ago at age 71, in Spain, a very famous Catholic, and it was a wonderful experience. But it wasn't an experience to help me be a better Christian, or that I was a better Christian in God's eyes if I did it. I think when I found out about women in the Middle Ages who would do the last half mile on their knees so that they would bleed, and therefore God would see them as suffering, and therefore they would get points for this. That's all. Luther, I think, was trying to get rid of that kind of personal involvement in salvation. And that's whether it's evangelicals or Catholics. Luther, he said, no, God does it all. Now you get out because you're saved and help people and help society and do the best thing. If you become a mayor, I think more Lutherans, unfortunately, historically, haven't become politicians. And haven't been, these people that make decisions politically, maybe based on a little more than just politics. Anyway.
I think that's a wonderful legacy. Thank you. Thank you. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think we're done.
All righty, let's get your